That's what it is. Thank you. Ready, Jeff? Yes, sir. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Okay, at this time, we have public testimony. Anyone that would like to come before the court at this time can come up and speak at this time.
I don't want to be disturbed by anybody on Zoom like last time.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
One second. Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Sue Friedek. I am a constituent in Mills County. I'm a local business owner also with Silver Star Food Store and Brands Marketing. Today, I'm speaking in behalf of many constituents who have contacted me verbally as well as electronically in concerns of your item agenda number 4 for today's meeting, the whole purpose of today's meeting. And we are seeking that you, as the Commissioners Court, do not approve this agenda item. It seems to be not in the well-respected manner benefiting the constituents of Mills County, as well as seems there is issues with this agenda item because the public does not know who put this agenda item on. So that was one of the concerns, is that if Commissioners Court can add on what official is putting up this agenda item. From our an acknowledgement that we already gained is we are assuming that it is from the county clerk's office. If the county clerk's office maybe next time could put their official on the agenda item so the public can actually know who created this. That's one of the biggest concerns, as well as it doesn't work for the constituents as well, because the fact that it doesn't include part-time employees, it only includes the full-time employees. So what's the difference of lives matter? What's the point of it? So it's wasting taxpayers' money, as this special meeting is also wasting taxpayers' money. So in behalf of the constituents of Mills County and a lot of people that have spoken to me, as well as Mills County Republican Chair Charlie Ragland, we are not in favor of this, and we're asking the Commissioners Court today to make sure that it does not pass. Thank you.
Commissioners, anybody else that would like to come before the court and speak at this time?
That's the sheriff.
Sheriff, hello, good afternoon, sir. It's not, Sheriff? Sheriff?
Unmute.
Do you have him, Robert?
Robert, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Sheriff, we got you.
Okay, Judge, good afternoon, Commissioners. Just want to inform you, we have 54 inmates in our county jail with 6 females. We have started to receive our new units that are coming in for a total of 10. We've got 3 more coming in the truck, so I wanted to inform you about that. Also, we made 2 major arrests last week on major burglaries that occurred in the Orange Grove area. Subjects have been released on bond. We just received a check from the federal government for $117,000 on some of our operations that we've had with our officer assigned to the DEA. So this is where we're at.
Thank you, Sheriff, very much for that report. Anyone else that would like to speak here before the, before we proceed? Anybody else?
Judge Rodriguez, Judge Michael Garcia, I would like to address the court.
Judge, yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge Rodriguez, Commissioners. I'm Judge Michael V. Garcia, your court at law judge. I'm here to speak on behalf of agenda item number 4, the telework policy. Although, albeit we will agree and comply, not agree, but comply with whatever ruling you all make today. I would just like to let you all know that I am in favor of adopting a telework policy to allow each department head or elected official to dictate how to run our office during this particular period. This is a fluid situation. It's changing every day. This telework policy is not a forever policy. It's something that I think it's needed at this point. My office is capable of working from home. The first thing we did when we started this COVID, it was first we bought laptops that was funded by the federal government grants. We have all the software in place to be able to work from home. We've had over 1,000 cases filed in my court since COVID began. I've had Zoom court over 200 days since the COVID began. So we are working hard. My office does not stop. My office does not take advantage of this policy. We are here to work and get our job done. And this allows us to provide the function that my office is designed to do. I think the department head is the person best that best knows how they could handle their department in this time that we're living in right now. My office depends on the county attorney's office. My office depends on the district clerk's office. My office depends on the county clerk's office. My office depends on the district attorney's office, the adult probation, and the juvenile probation. Should one of those offices goes down, it could make my office go down for a particular day should we have court on that day. I know there was an instance with the county attorney's office where they had to either shut down or there were some positive tests. Had we had court that day, we would have had inmates had to stay in jail because we wouldn't have been able to have court nor tend to their needs. This is not, like I said, not forever. I think, if we do a policy for 60 days and revisit it, that's fine. But I think the department head and the elected official are best know what the needs are of their offices. And I ask the court to consider that. We will comply with whatever decision you all make. However, I'm here speaking in favor of it and asking the court to adopt this policy for a particular time so that we can get through all this safely. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Judge. Anyone else that would like to come before the court? Yes, sir. Mr. Prasan? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Prasan. I'm the First Assistant District Attorney. I work for Carlos Garcia. And let me just take this moment to thank you to giving us this opportunity to at least provide our perspective on this important issue. It was very, very interesting that I look around this commissioner's court and also from the prior comments about how people communicate today. In person, we all know that's always been since the ages of time. But the latest and the greatest is electronic. Everyone has a smartphone. The laws change. Everyone adapts. I look up here, I see TV screens. The county court at law judge, Michael Garcia, just spoke via the Zoom, the technology. It allows for that. You can't stop progress. And I guess that's the bottom line. That's my message. Technological advancements provide efficiency. Think about what happened in the 19th century, how things were done, compared to the 20th century. And mind you, we're no longer in the 20th century. And we're now, how many years? 20 years into the 21st century, okay? You can't stop technological advancements. When was the last time you saw a typewriter being used to do everyday work that the courts need? And I'm talking from my perspective. Computers, if you go back then, there were people that were saying computers are never gonna do or amount to anything. But wow, was that wrong? It's so embedded in what we do, we cannot live or work without it. We have to adapt. Does that mean that the DA's office could never purchase computers just because? No, we had to adapt and we had to implement. We got to keep up with the time. And as the judge spoke earlier, anybody in our office, if our office got exposure, that would basically knock us all out. That means that we're only one of maybe 4 or 5 parts of the criminal justice system. And you take any one of those variables out, we can't work. The courts can't do what they do. The state can't prepare for cases without everybody involved. The other day, I was making a conversation with the county attorney earlier today. We actually had a defendant who was on Zoom in a Zoom court hearing who said, hey, I'm sick and I got tested positive for COVID-19. But we still had the hearing. Why? Because the technology allowed us to continue the work. I think there's a misconception that if you telework, you're not working. That's incorrect. That is incorrect. Our office is completely digital as far as paperwork. We receive a majority of our law enforcement case files electronically. We implemented that years ago. We didn't need a pandemic to help us start that. We already did it. We have a system and a database that we can access securely from anywhere in the part of the world if we need to. In fact, our satellite office of Brooks County, that's how they access the database, which is located here. We now have in the 79th District Attorney's Office a unified database, whereas before the Carlos Garcia's administration, there was no such thing. You could not tell if one defendant was active in both counties unless you had personal knowledge of that defendant doing that crime. Now is not the case. We have a unified database. Why? Because the technology provides that. We need the teleworking to continue, not only because it's worked for us. And I will tell you, we have never shut our office closed, ever, unless the courthouse through this commissioner's court said, courthouse is closed. Our office has always been open. We have accepted new cases. We have prosecuted new cases. We have processed new cases. We continue to do so. We came back in when this court said, July 6th, we want you in person. We came back. We're not here to, disrupt the normal flow of things, but we cannot stick our heads in the sand and think that the technological advancements, we got to stop. We got to stop. We can't. You got to keep going forward. That means, and begs the question, you got to put in special policies. I understand the issue. Well, how do you know they're working? You got to put in some policy in there, policy rules. Does this work for every department from A to Z in the county? No. If you got a precinct that's doing road work, you can't do that by teleworking. That's common sense. You can't do it. You have to have a person on the job. But go to the court criminal justice system, and that's not the case. This is a tool. This is an advancement. And I'm asking the court to consider that and don't make an all or nothing rule. You have to make exceptions. You have to make exceptions. Let's see. The other thing too, and I'm gonna take this advantage also. Our office, we have about 22 or so employees. Three of them are in Brooks. Subtract that, and what do we have left? 17, 19 employees. But if you go to our office, we have a very small office footprint. We're on top of each other. We can almost not, we can't follow the social distancing guidelines because we're so jam-packed, which means that if you don't have teleworking, someone gets sick, it's going to affect the entire office and will shut us down. So I'm telling you right now, our office footprint is too small. I don't know how we can address that, or maybe at a later date, but teleworking provides us an opportunity to do what? To do several groups, break our office down into several groups. The office will never be closed. We have group 1, group 2. We split them up and they alternate. One teleworks while one's in person, and vice versa. We get the work done. And I challenge anybody to say that we didn't. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Judge,
Anyone else that would like to come before the court at this time?
I'd like to go ahead and say something, being
Yes, sir.
that I did instigate the agenda item.
Actually,
And the reason-
and I want to make something clear there for the record, anyone is welcome and allowed to come before the county judge and request to have an agenda item put on the, and I had multiple requests and concerns throughout the courthouse, and this is what we do, and we have it on the agenda so we can discuss it and debate it.
Right.
And everybody may have comments or
And,
misconceptions out there, but frankly, some people just don't know what they're talking about and don't have no idea how it works within the courthouse. As you mentioned, Mr. Person, the teleworking and the technology and the enhancements and the efficiency of it. For our part, I mean, we've never been closed during the pandemic, during freezes, any crisis, so we've continued to function, whether it's, and some of us are just used to doing that, taking those phone calls at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock, where nobody has no idea of what's going on, and technology does help a lot, whether it's with juveniles, whether it's the adults, the jail. On multiple occasions, I've used it, and I hate the tablet, but it comes in handy and it's worked out. Now I've got used to it, so, and it's become pretty darn efficient, but doesn't mean that, like was mentioned earlier, that when Commissioners Court convene and decide, okay, everybody complied, came back when we asked everybody to do that. Obviously, we have a surge now and a lot of contagious or contagion going around and a lot of people getting infected, so we just have to keep that in mind, and that's why we're here, because that's our concern. Some of us may not have those underlying conditions or concerns or other worries, but nobody's aware of some of the folks and our employees, and that's what we're looking out for, their underlying conditions, special circumstances and conditions. So some people don't have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and some of that is frankly private, and a lot of that, most folks are not aware or have a clue or an idea. Some of us do about some of these conditions and people. So I just wanted to make that clear. Mr. Pettis, go ahead.
Thank you. And that's what brought up the concern. I do have 4 as far as in staff, and all it take would be one person to get infected. And our whole idea is to keep the clerk's office open and to keep the courts flowing. There's a lot of people that come in that are needing birth certificates just for driver's license this year. So that needs to keep on going. So, and there's, anyway, the whole idea is to keep the doors open, to keep the office continue to work. We do have the technology to where they can, the two that would be off would be working at home. We do have Zoom, we do have, when we have court hearings, of course, we listen to that, and that can be done anywhere, which, a lot of the two staff members that take care of the court, will be doing that. So my whole intent was not to keep the court going, keep the county clerk's office open. And nobody is having a vacation or nobody's having a day off. They're all working. And that was my intent.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Judge, I'll go ahead and go.
Mr. Guerra?
I was gonna go before.
Yes, go ahead.
The DA, but that's the main fallacy we've got here, is that this is some kind of benefit or some kind of benefit for employees that they won't have to work, okay? Now, if we have to tighten up on some of that, there's definitely room for that. But I can speak for my office, we continue to work. This morning, we did a Zoom hearing. We handled 67 criminal cases in the county court of law. During the period of the telework, we filed 452 criminal cases, 73 protective orders. In addition, I can tell you Judge Garcia also had 108 probate cases and over 100 CPS and child support cases each filed in this court. The work is continuing to go on. The first thing that we did when we went on, and I don't know if somebody else said it, bought laptops for everybody. We're using Zoom. We use a software called GoToMyPC so that you can control your computer from wherever you're working. In addition, way before all this, we had started to digitize the criminal files that are coming from Alice PD and from some of the other law enforcement agents. That was done before the pandemic, so we already have access to everything. It's all in the cloud. We can continue to work. Our office never closed. Until when? Last week. What happened? We all came back to work on August 4th. All 7 of us were working in our office. 3 of us have independent offices. The rest are in a common area. So on August 4th, it was a Wednesday. We all worked together. August 5th at 7:30, my phone rang. It was one of my employees. She said she wasn't feeling well. I said, go, if you think you have symptoms, go get checked out. At 11 o'clock, she called back that she was positive. What's my choice in that situation? Let everybody stay there and we have people coming in and out of our office, including other employees here in the courthouse, or send everybody home? For the safety of everybody in the courthouse, I send everybody home. That's the first time I had to close the doors to my office during regular working hours. But what choice did I have? Now, if I can set up 2 crews, I only need 2. The DA, they probably need 3 because they have more employees. But if I have 2 crews, it's preventative so that we can stay open. So that if somebody on one of the 2 crews gets sick, I've got backup. And we may not be able to rotate in the same, we won't be able to rotate in the same order until the sick people are able to come back. But at least my office doesn't close. What helped me last week was that Carlos Garcia's office agreed to be on standby for any protective orders. Domestic violence doesn't end. Those are the most important cases that we get on a daily basis. The rest of them come in, after people make bond and so forth, we get those cases. But on the domestic violence, the day after the incident, the morning after the incident, at 8:05, we've got an applicant in our office that needs help immediately because the person that harmed that person is going to make bond that same day. And if we don't get a protective order in place, it could happen again, and it has happened. We have had back-to-back domestic violence cases from one day to the next with the same people. So, I mean, we'll do whatever you tell us to, but the important points are here. People are still working. If we need to tighten up on that and turn in reports on what's going on from home and so forth, and making sure that people are there. If they're not at home, if they're not where they should be, then they should be docked a day's pay. But if they're working from home and getting the work done, we can continue to function, and we ensure against having to have a total shutdown if one person gets sick in a particular office. So for all those reasons, I think it's an effective tool. most especially us, and I'm not trying to separate us or set us apart, because everybody can make their own argument for their office. But those in the judicial, in the courtroom portion of it, and I'm setting aside JPs for now because they need it as well, but I'll let them make that argument. But for us, district judge, district clerk, district attorney, adult probation. On our side, county court of law, county clerk, county attorney, and this probation overlaps as well. And then juvenile probation also comes into county court of law. Those 4 offices, the smallest one, and in terms of number of employees, is the county court of law, and he's got 4. Okay, so if one gets sick, you shut the whole thing down. All the rest of them are even higher. I have 7, JC's got 5. I don't know, DA's got 19, I just heard. Probation are both big offices. You have the capability of being able to separate into 2 crews for safety purposes, so that if one gets sick, you can send that crew home until everybody either gets well or they take a test. Here's the other thing, like in my case, we found out on Thursday morning, we can't go test Thursday, we can't go test Friday, we can't go test Saturday and Sunday. We have to wait till Monday to go test, because you got to wait 4 to 5 days. So even if it's just one person, you can knock out half an office for 5 to 6 days until you get those results back. So this isn't trying to reward or benefit employees. This is a preventative measure so that we don't have to close our offices if somebody comes down with the virus.
Mr. Guerra, thank you for those comments. And I also want to add, while everybody's making their comments, that for most folks that have the misconception that the courthouse has been closed, it's never closed down, not one time that I'm aware of, and we keep things functioning and try to keep the environment safe. And of course, this is a unique situation. This is a courthouse, and I know that there's different opinions and ideas about, as someone alluded to earlier, there's certain crews and workers and different people. There's different circumstances and different types of work duties that people are required to do. And this is unique because, as they all mentioned, we have a system in place that if it's disrupted at any given time, it's just not going to be efficient. I can attest to the fact that our office, and this is why we're here, my office is here to listen and to hear and to open and be open to all suggestions. And obviously, my biggest concern is the safety and the well-being of our people, our employees, because I've seen throughout this 1.5 years of pandemic and crisis that we have continued operating in an efficient manner. We haven't missed a beat. People have been serviced. As Mr. Guerra alluded to, domestic violence and a lot of these issues in juvenile courts and things that go down don't stop, and there's no break for it. So somebody has to address it, and somebody has to attend to that, whether it's Mr. Guerra or the JPs at the jail, or dealing with a applicant, a victim of that, or ourselves that have to show up at any given hour, at any given time at night. As Mr. Guerra alluded to, sometimes you have to ask for backup and someone to step in when there's protective orders. And sometimes it all falls apart because nobody has an idea how the system works, but I can attest to it. And if we have to break it down all the way through A to Z, it's been pretty efficient. We've been pretty, as far as an overall courthouse, that we like to keep the wheels running smoothly, regardless of what, there is that misconception and that fallacy like Mr. Guerra mentioned. And this is no better time right now than to address these issues that the community, constituents, taxpayers may not have an idea how things work, the inner workings of our courthouse. But I can attest to it 100% that I've never seen any one office in particular that has a high volume and traffic of servicing constituents. I've never seen it stop or hurt. Maybe a few doors closed, a few people separated at home back and forth, but I've always been able to get a hold of folks, whether they're in the courthouse, all the way around. I'm talking about every department, or at home, to access information or to work via Zoom through our tablet. And obviously, for those that are still misinformed and not aware, that we do have a variant right now that is more contagious than the previous contagious virus that was out there. And I understand, because my office works differently, and we're not going to miss a beat, but other departments have different circumstances that other people are not aware of. And I'll explain to the taxpayers in the community that there are situations. We are confined in an old courthouse where decisions have not been made, or we have not addressed it, because we will address that in the future as far as close confines and individuals that work almost on top of each other, trying to operate and function within the courthouse. That's because we haven't even brought in juries and individuals from the outside to come in and see how we're gonna figure that one out, in the future. We have jail prisoners that has worked out. If it wasn't for telework, well, there wouldn't be able to be those hearings, because the sheriff's department has a different policy and they're under stricter protocol by the state of Texas. So we have to keep all in mind. I can go on and on and on about the details. And like I said, my biggest concern and my priority here is the safety and the well-being of all the employees in the department here, and how we can come up with a policy and some kind of rules to keep on functioning and continue the efficient work. I often ask people, well, can you point something out? Can you be specific exactly where we're suffering or where we're not providing services? I've yet to get a response back, because I don't think we've missed a beat, whether it's here or anywhere else out there for that matter. And so I challenge anybody to say, or come before us and tell us that it has not worked and that we've missed a beat, and that cases and certain procedures have not continued going forward. So that's my position, commissioners.
Well, I'm gonna say that coming in, I had gone as far as calling the different courts in the surrounding areas, and none of them have closed their doors or gone to telework. But then I listened to Michael speaking about his office, or, the judicial system and stuff. And I know my office, we've never closed, my guys work out in the field, in the heat, and I know Ventura's hasn't, and.
He was not 3, he was what?
But our work is different. My girls are only 2 and they sit in separate.
And it looks like shit.
Okay. We social distance, and so I feel like within a department, we need to start fixing up our offices where we do have cubbies or the plexiglass to protect our employees. But until we get there, every department head can use your own judgment as far as if you need to let one person go because there's too many or whatever, that we go ahead and do that. Or if you're 19 and you know that you can't have 19 in an office without being socially distanced, if somebody's not vaccinated, to wear their masks. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. And yes, our job is to protect our employees as much as to serve our constituents or the taxpayers. So where do you find a middle ground?
I think that COVID-19, from what I hear, survival rate is 99%. The flu is probably 98, 99.
What's your source for that? That number's not correct.
And where does everybody get their source?
Well,
There's all kinds of places.
That's the problem.
And you know
right
what?
now.
Does anybody actually know that hospitals are paying? The government is paying hospitals for COVID deaths. You go in for something and they're automatically, boom, we're going to test you for COVID. You end up with COVID. So then this way, if you die, hospitals get paid for this. I know this for a fact. I know this in Spahn Hospital on Shoreline. The minute you go in, boom, you go in for heart problems or whatever. Oh, we need to test you for COVID. Well, I'm going in for heart problems, but you get tested for COVID. Oh yeah, you have COVID. Oh, this way, in case something happens to you, death certificate, COVID death, money from the government. So a long time ago, somebody had the flu, they call you, I don't feel good. Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go to the doctor tomorrow. Well, I got the flu. So I got fever, I can't be at work for about 3-4 days, whatever. But, unless you've got major underlying issues or whatever, I don't see it. If you're sick, stay at home. Just last week, we did the deal where you get paid for 14 days or whatever it was.
Commissioner, you want to continue?
No, go ahead and then we'll see.
Just to respond, see where we're at. And I understand your concern that something that really applies to people that actually do go to hospital, which really doesn't affect or concern us. Back to the point was that whether it's a regular flu COVID-10 or COVID-19 or RSV, whatever's going around, obviously there's something that's going around and has these hospitals backed up and full and patients on the, and I don't know how they get paid, and I really don't care how that gets paid. I just know that here, our taxpayers in our office at this courthouse, I really don't understand. I really don't get what the concern is of anybody else outside of this four walls in this courthouse here. Especially when they have no idea of what's going on within the inner workings of this courthouse. It just blows my mind to understand people assuming and speculating how things function. It just
I'm
blows
not
my mind.
assuming anything. Are
Oh.
you assuming anything?
I'm assuming, well, no, I'm not even referring to whatever you mentioned, or we're talking about the hospitals and pains, which has nothing to do with what we're doing here right now. The safety, in other words, can you give me some specifics as to when or who's not worked in this courthouse and when this courthouse has been closed? I want something specific. Otherwise, this is just all, it seems to me it's coming from another place. Who has not worked and who has missed a beat here? Because I get a stack of complaints about outside of this courthouse of things that are not operating or functioning or whatever, there's roads, curves, trash. And I take those calls on a daily basis, but I never have any problems within this courthouse or these four walls. So I don't understand. If you can break it down for me, anyone, what it is that y'all don't get, that they just filed 200 or whatever it was cases via Zoom. They had number of hearings. People are being processed. We haven't had trustees or actually inmates cross the street in, I can't remember how long it's been, to bring them over to the courthouse and actually have the hearings like
February of 20.
February of 20. People are still being processed. People are still moving forward. We're still operating actually more efficiently for the taxpayers than we were before this pandemic, actually, to be honest with you. I think we're operating a little bit more. So I understand the concerns from everybody. I still haven't heard from everybody else. I'm just responding because obviously I should be well aware of how things operate in this courthouse. I am well aware how things operate. I've never seen anybody not work. And the idea that someone has to rotate and work from their isolated home or location, obviously this is happening and occurring across the land in the United States of America. And so I'm also well aware of, as someone alluded to earlier, that yes, we have to keep up with progress in the times. And before, as far as efficiency goes, the numbers and the figures are there to show that, like I said, I mentioned earlier that I alluded to, that we're more efficient now than we probably were prior to the pandemic. And so I don't see, and I think the misconception is, and the idea and the image of employees having their technology at their place at home or wherever that may be, distance from their office to avoid being amongst each other and so tightly knit. I don't know and see where the harm is or where the inefficiency is and where we're doing something wrong. Bottom line. So I'm going to say that again.
JC, at what percentage are we moving our dockets last year? 90%, 80%?
We haven't,
You've gotten
no,
sick.
we've gone, I mean,
You know,
100%. We've really moved everything that
Yeah,
comes
so,
in.
because the state, I think we're moving probably at 90%. The state requires the county to move their
Oh.
dockets at 90%.
Oh, we hit 90
Yeah,
percentile.
we have to be
Yeah.
at 90%,
By July 31st.
or we don't qualify for grants.
Right.
And we're doing that.
And we're doing that.
Our elected officials are doing a great job with their offices. Until we fail to move our docket and fail to do certain things that are required of us, I don't really see too much of a problem.
Commissioners, anybody else? Mr. Gonzalez, would you like to make a comment?
I can understand where people are getting the misconception that some people aren't doing their job, they're going out there and stuff like that. I hear that. I understand where the DA's office got 19 people in there. Is that even fire chief ready? I mean, would that be allowed? Do we have the space to put all these people? It's obviously we don't. I'd like to see a game plan to where there are some offices, like they mentioned, they don't need to, they don't have that privilege of having to go through telework. It's obvious that the judicial part of this courthouse, like Mr. Guerra said, if this office closes, it's gonna affect every office. And not just 1, 2, 3, it's just, he locks up, everything's shut down right there. So it's either gonna happen now or gonna happen later. You either shut down now or later. But we're not talking about a shutdown completely to shut down the courthouse. We're talking about, like Mr. Guerrero said, I did the same thing. I kept my people in the Fremont area, kept the Bembo people in Bembo. If something happened over there, I could use my people over there, and they would be in a they would what do you call it when you're exposed? So I can see where the judicial part of this courthouse can telework. I've talked to some people who work in the hospitals, and they said, yes, you get a lot more done through it because you're working pretty much 12, 14 hours a day at home doing it. You get a lot more done. Now, is it where some people won't do it? I don't know. Perhaps it is, but you're gonna hold them accountable for it. It's obvious they have already said, they stated their cases have been done, the work's been done. I go back, some offices can do it clearly, they can do it. Some offices can't. So can we say X amount of, if you don't have the space within your office to hold the social distancing from each other, you can telework, but if you do, you can't. If I have 1 or 2 people in an office, why would I shut it down? I mean, why would I telework? It's mixed in there, but somebody bring a game plan or convince me different.
Remember, the policy has 2 prongs to it. One is the discretion of the department head, and that the office is still able to deliver services without disruption. So if you've got a 1 or 2 person office, you're not going to qualify for the telework because, well, maybe a 2 person if you rotate 1 and 1, but a 1 person, which we've got a few 1 person offices. You can't telework on those because it would create too much of a disruption. But then again, that employee, in most circumstances, won't be exposed to anybody else other than themselves. They just got to walk into their office and walk out. So the policy itself does have something to address that about offices that are so small that you cannot functionally operate.
And it's just gonna be a matter of what's considered small, what's considered not eligible to be able to do telework. Can your office do telework or not?
In the meantime,
It's obvious that the judicial part of it, like I said, it's clearly, it's technology, it's update. I mean, yes, this is today's way. I mean, we do Zoom meetings. I don't show up. I haven't been here one time and I had to figure out, sure enough, I was in a Zoom. You know, it's technology. People may have the misconception, well, he's not there. Where is he? You don't see him. No, I'm on the camera. I'm over here. So of course they're gonna misunderstand that part of it, but I firmly believe, I agree, if we can do that, as long as we're not shutting any office down, and because if somebody gets sick in one office, then it's gonna affect everybody, and it's gonna just affect everybody else in other offices. So, but I don't, shut down or stuff like that, no, I won't support. I just feel like certain offices might be able to do it, other offices don't. And if you can't, then I've already got the funding for the shields, for the masks, for all the stuff to protect the people. So let's protect them and do whatever is available to do through whoever can do it through telework.
okay, well, I'd like to also, since everybody's made their comments, I mean, I don't know if anybody's gone over the order specifically here, how tight-knit it is and how specific the department head has access to the employee at all times. Department head takes responsibility for that. It's on the department head to organize and to manage their workload and their employees. If you go down the list, it also calls for immediate doctor's excuse or any type of, see, this will kick in if we don't implement some type of safety measures. And then we'll have those disruptions everybody's talking about, and it's inevitable. It's inevitable that we're gonna continue experiencing hotspots and infections, and people are gonna come back with symptoms, whether they're vaccinated or not. They're gonna come with fixed symptoms. They're gonna come not only with symptoms, but infectious to others. And that's how simple it is. We're just trying to avoid that. Nobody's trying to get a vacation, any additional vacation. Obviously, every circumstance different in every department, as Commissioner Gonzalez mentioned. Your road crew and your departments and your operations are a totally different operation than the courts and the specific specialized offices in the courthouse that have a lot more traffic and a lot more one-on-one contact with the public, whether this public is infected or not. How's the employee supposed to know, or department head, that we've abided and followed the rule of law as far as not allowing or keeping. There's different organizations that are implementing certain things. There's different organizations that are considering different options and different scenarios. This is a fluid situation on a daily basis. We don't know how this thing's going to continue on. That's just why the different departments requested a temporary telework policy or a temporary system in place just to protect everyone. Nobody's looking for vacation. We're on top of it. I don't know if anybody wants to make any more comments to clarify exactly what it is specifically that is not occurring, that is not being serviced, that is not happening.
Jimmy, I'd like to speak.
Mr. Schmidt, would you like to also speak? All right, let's go ahead, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. I just wanted to kind of let y'all know a little bit, as far as juvenile probation goes. Do I like, excuse me, do I like Zoom and all this stuff? No, I can't stand it. But it's something that if we have to do, we have to do. I mean, just last week, we had 13 kids that we put on some type of probation. Well, it's really hard in our office. I mean, all y'all know our office. Yeah, it's a lot better than we used to be, but it's still not that big. But I work a way to where they come in and sign in, we make them wait in their cars, and we would do one by one in court. Now, yes, the two attorneys and the judge are on Zoom, but we're back there in our classroom, normally with the kid and the parents. I try to sanitize that building after everybody leaves, almost every other day or so, depending on how many people we have in. About, I'd say a month and a half ago, we started seeing kids in the office again. For a while, we were doing nothing but having them report by phone. That, obviously, you probably well know, doesn't work that great. We had them coming in. Now, if we go back to some type of skeleton crew, well, then we'll probably go back to letting them report by phone. I also have officer assigned to each school district. One Orange Grove, Fremont, Ben Bolt, and of course, Alice. They've been going. If this gets worse and worse, then I may not let them go. Kids, that's one thing about our office. If Alice PD or any law enforcement agency makes an arrest in the county, we don't have a choice. We got to go out for a juvenile.
Right.
We can't just say, well, you know what, just let them go. You know, we have to go out because the juvenile probation officer makes that decision on whether or not that child's going to get detained or released to parents. And we go out for those, and my officers are great. And when you talk about telework, can we do a lot of that? No, I did the same thing. I bought all my guys or girls laptops, where we have a program we work out of Austin. It's called JCMS. They can chrono, they can look up kids, they can do all that stuff. But most of our stuff, like say if a kid gets arrested, well, we got to do paperwork to the DA's office, we got to do paperwork to the county clerk, we have to do paperwork to the county court at law judge, and that can only be done from the office. And when we were on the skeleton crew for a while, it honestly didn't hurt us a bit, because if, say, one of the officers is on call, but she's supposed to be off tomorrow, she'd come in anyway and do what she needed to do and then go back home. So for us, do I like it? No, I'm not crazy about it, but whatever is the best for, but I agree, I think it should be up to each individual department head, because I don't know what different offices do, what they have to have, what they don't have to have. But for us, I think it's important. I really wanted to start our drug court again, but I don't want to do it through Zoom, because I don't think these kids and parents get the satisfaction of doing it on a TV as they do with a judge sitting right there where you are, Judge. So
Different circumstances.
but I mean, when we can do that again, we'll do that again. But either way we do it, we're not going to our office is going to stay the same. We're going to keep doing what we do. But I do believe whatever y'all do, it should be left up more or less to each department on what's the best way for your office or your department to handle things. And that's all I really have. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
I know we had another member from the community that walked in.
Okay. Someone else like to come before the court to speak or address the Commissioners Court?
Sir, did you want to address the Commissioners Court?
No.
No, you just speak to.
Anybody else?
I do want to add one thing. I know that, in our office, our work is not only on our desk to where we just stay there and we're 6 feet apart. Our work, we deal with people that come in and we service the people and we cater to them. We also have people that come in to our office and do they look up deans, they do research, there's a lot of different things that there's a lot of movement in our office, so.
And that's what I was alluding to, the traffic that nobody else is
There-
aware
there's
of on a
more-
regular basis.
There's a lot of traffic that goes on. And that's why,
It's impossible to keep.
we can't stay in a cubbyhole like, because our job is dealing with the people. And I just wanted to clear that out, and make sure, just that the clerk's office does not just sit and do work. They have to move around and work with the people, go do research, go help people do research, and all that type of deal.
Okay, Commissioners, any other discussion? Anybody else that would like to present or discuss or come before the court? If not, then that was a lot of discussion, and we haven't even got to the agenda item, which is where we're going next. Unless anybody else has any other comments or questions, we're gonna go ahead and go and proceed to agenda item number 4, consider and take action to adopt telework policy for Jim Wells County due to COVID-19 and setting conditions, rules, and limitations on policies use. Okay. If there's no more discussion, Commissioners, do we want to move on this? Anybody? I move that we proceed and accept agenda item number 4 is considered and as stated. Any discussion about that? So my motion's on the floor.
I'll second.
I have a second. Any discussion before we vote on the particulars of this policy? Just any clarifications? Mr. Guerra, is there a timeline or a time period on this particular policy that we wanted to?
Last time we left it open-ended. If you want to make it part of your motion that it's in place for X number of days, you could certainly add that.
I would like to address this again in 30 days. This is give us a time to implement this, maybe 30 days, I'm not sure.
Why don't we look for a court date in September? It's going to be the 4th Friday in September is the 24th. Unless you want to do it on the 13th of
It
September.
would be up to your discretion, as to when you want to address it.
Right.
Don't put yourself in a one month at a time,
Right.
Whenever you feel that the time is right.
Yeah, and obviously we're monitoring the surge in the infections and the rate and the testing and everything that's going on in our hospital locally. So I guess we'll leave this,
Open to your discretion.
September 13th is a quorum.
You can leave it open and just set it on the agenda whenever you feel it's appropriate, or
I think that's probably something that we don't want this indefinitely. Obviously, we mentioned this, not gonna be indefinite. This is while this goes on, and we're considering everything to protect everybody. So things smooth out. So I have a motion on the floor in a second. Any more discussion, Commissioners? At all? Any other comments? I know that. Any specifics or anything? No? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And And all those opposed?
Nope.
1 nay. Motion passes. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Motion to adjourn.
I move. Second. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.